Sally Vander Veer. But don't let the name fool you. She is of the Williams clan. Don't let the gender fool you. She is a medicine man. So she takes us through what it is to run finance for the business and what it is to be the oldest sister of Andy and Pete and the daughter of Michelle. Enjoy. Okay, we've got Sally Vander Veer from Medicine Man. And you have quite a family, and we're going to talk about everybody. But Sally, thanks so much for giving us some time here.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, kind of give us the overview. Medicine Man is a family-run business. It's a family operation. Explain how.
Well, if you're in our family, you work for us, is essentially what that means. Not really, but almost. I've got my mother. My brother Andy Williams, brother Pete Williams, myself. Our sister just came on board a couple months ago. She's a fantastic bud tender. My brother-in-law is an amazing facilities/operations manager. I've got a niece and a nephew, and various other family members have come in and out over the years. So, it's really great. Every day I get to go and work with my family. And some may perceive that as a bad thing, but it's a wonderful thing as far as we're all concerned.
No, absolutely. And I've been in the same room with you guys, with multiples of you guys, and I can see that it does work. This is a family where the family business works.
Yeah.
And my first question to you is, how much do you think that that's attributed to the fact that, and maybe I'm using the wrong word, but you guys had somewhat of a nomadic beginning when you guys were kids. Is that the right word, or what would be the right word if it's not nomadic?
Yeah, I would say that, and I don't know where you get your information, but you're right. We were kind of gypsies. We there's so many stories, but my mom was married 5 times, so. From an early age, we were moving around from state to state or place to place. We grew up very poor. We do have a great dad who tends to get left out of the equation, and a great dad who always was in our lives, just not always, physically in our lives, except for summers or, phone calls on the weekends. But for the most part, we just followed my mom around. And, we lived in a trailer for a while. We lived with relatives. It wasn't an easy childhood for any of us by any means. But, we've talked about it at length, and we really do think that was the spark for the entrepreneurial and hardworking spirit that all of us have. So I guess, we survived. It's a joke that we say to my mom, it's a wonder that we're still alive, and
right.
We say it lovingly, but there's a lot of truth to that.
Well, let's kind of just try to get in there a little bit and understand what you mean. You're the oldest, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you are the protector, and that is an actual title, if I'm not mistaken.
The enforcer, the protector, I'm not sure what it is, but yeah. Well, yeah. And, the 4 of us were born within a 5-year span, so we're all similar, of similar ages, but, birth order theory, I would say that we're pretty typical as far as birth order is concerned. So, yes, it turned to me. I ended up raising a lot of them while my mom was at work, various work,
right.
And I ended up taking care of everybody, and that really hasn't changed into our 40s.
Which is amazing, and also extremely endearing when you're in the same room with more than a few of you guys. And you mentioned that your mother worked very hard, and she had more than one job at the same time, right?
Yeah, and we were, those food stamps, and we all hate it. Even today when we talk about it, we had the lunch tickets and, holes in our shoes, and, you name it. We did it. It was not good. We always had a lot of love, and so that was a good thing. Right. We always felt loved, if not always safe, but we felt loved. And that, I don't know, it could have destroyed us, but instead it brought us closer. So that's a good thing.
Totally. And, one more thing on your mom as far as green light. Did I find out about that? What's that about?
Oh, she would work so hard. We would be driving, and she would close her eyes at stoplights. And my brothers would yell green light to wake her up so she could start driving. So she was so tired that she would take whatever 5 or 10 seconds she could get. Again, it's a wonder we're alive. But
right. And so
really hard.
let's just trace you guys kind of across the country, back and forth. Was the order Washington, New York, California? Is that the correct order?
Well, we started in Japan. That's where I was born.
Of course.
Yeah. My father graduated from the Naval Academy and was stationed in Japan. He flew 3 tours. He was a pilot in Vietnam, and so he would come home from his tour. My mom would get pregnant, and he'd go on another tour, and that happened 3 times. So then from there we moved to, I guess, Washington. I think you had it right. California, New York. Florida was in there at some point. I don't remember exactly when. Colorado.
Okay.
I do know in 6th grade, for instance, I'll tell you this. I was in 3 different schools. So
wow.
Not only were we moving to a different state, but within those states, this was all in California, we moved 3 times in the course of 1 school year. So, we all have, there's some scars from that for all of us as well. My brother Pete wants everyone to like him, and he's very likable. We all carry, for as intact as I would say we are, you still carry a little bit of that with you everywhere you go. So,
sure. Give us the overview of the siblings. If that's Pete's kind of what affected Pete, what affected Andy. In other words, how did he do? Yeah.
Let's see. Andy's nurturing, and he's a pleaser as well. I mean, for as an astute businessman he still wants to leave a deal feeling good, right? He still wants everyone in the room to feel as though they were fairly treated. There's no cutthroat piece to him. And I don't know if that was something he was born with or a result of our upbringing, but he's very fair, and there's no ego whatsoever with him. And you've met him several times. He doesn't care who he is or what he's done, or he just wants to keep moving forward. So that's
it. And he's got that big smile. So it would be tough to have an evil guy under that big smile. You know?
Exactly. And Pete, Pete not only wants people to like him, but he's an innovator. I think maybe that came from, we didn't have anything to do, and so he had to create his own world. And so it started with Legos and sticks and mud and those kinds of things. But from a very early age, he was always taking apart things and putting it back together, or finding new ways to make things work better. So that's carried with him. It's kind of cool. Kind of cool to see that.
What about your bud tending sister?
Oh, she's sweet. So she's the youngest. So she's had it harder than most in some ways, but in other ways she didn't. Well, she moved just as much. She's just sweet. She's just this wonderful, sweet. She's most like my mother. Very caring, very. I want to use another word other than sweet, but very caring and sees the best in everyone, wants to help, tries to fix, those kinds of things. She's very forgiving. She's a wonderful person, good example. Yeah.
And so now back to your mother just before we get to you, Sally.
Okay.
As far yes, okay, fine. She's caring and sweet, and I've met her, but she's also got to be relentless in order to have you guys survive, as you said a couple times. Talk about that, not necessarily aggressiveness, but just the unwillingness to fail in your mother.
Yeah, you're right. And if maybe not unwillingness, but just inability to even consider that as an option. So she's just this eternal optimist, and everything's going to turn out fine. Oh, it'll be fine. I heard that so many times. Oh, we don't have any food. We'll be fine. That kind of thing. So it was just sort of this steadfast optimism. combined with a lot of luck, I guess, to get her through. And that carries through today. She doesn't want to be concerned with confrontation or details related to the business because it's just not that positive sometimes, right? So she wants to see the shine on things and move forward. So yeah, it was just a weird combination. That would be great, wouldn't it, to see the world that way, that everything will be taken care of. But in addition to that, I will say she is a pioneer woman. You could have put her in a covered wagon, and she would have made it. She would have, been pulling the ox and cooking the food and tending to the little folk or whatever they would do. But she's just a sturdy, steadfast, hard-working woman. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely. She's internationally a pioneer woman. Japan and then Washington, New York, California, back and forth a couple times there to Denver. Right? So, okay, so sixth grade, you changed schools a few times. When you got into high school, which state did you finally find yourself? Was that Colorado or no?
That was Colorado. So that was our respite. From 8th grade forward. We stayed, pretty much in the same spot. I was able to go to the same school because I found a way to get to my new high school. I had to get a ride, but we did move once again. But everyone completed high school in Colorado. Okay.
And so I heard a few things about your high school career.
Oh gosh.
And it's an odd combination. All three are an odd combination. So homecoming queen, is that true?
Prom queen. There's a difference.
Oh, excuse me. Prom queen is different than homecoming queen. I apologize.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Head cheerleader, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then valedictorian is the one that we weren't expecting.
No,
after
that
those
is
two.
An extrapolation. I was, I think, 3rd or 4th in my class. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. Pete tends to exaggerate a lot more than Andy, but my lore is probably greater than my achievements in my family.
I see how it is. Okay, so maybe not necessarily valedictorian, but it sounds like you were up there close enough to the top of the class.
I was.
Yeah, okay.
And I was senior class president. They left that off.
Oh, see that? Look at that. All right, so here's a leader, right? You kind of defer to Andy and Pete as far as faces for the business, but there's leadership all over the place there. Talk about why it was so important to achieve as much as you did. What was driving you through high school?
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about that before. I've just always had this need to do better, right? So you grow up poor. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but it's something that since I was little, I wanted to do 2 things. Number 1, not be poor. Number 2, be a mother. And I was going to do anything I could to make that happen. And the only way out that I knew was to use my brain to move forward. And a lot of that I just fell into. It was easy for me to lead. It was easy for me to take on a lot of things. I mean, I think back now, what I was doing, my junior and senior year was insane. And not only that, I had a part-time job to pay for my cheerleading uniforms. I was working 20 hours a week and doing all that stuff. And I suppose there's a lot of my mom's, willpower and determination in that. But it's crazy to think, how much you can accomplish when you're really driven. So I was really driven by wanting to succeed for myself and to make a life for my future children that would look nothing like the one that I lived.
Right. Absolutely. And so you mentioned it's crazy to think that what you were doing, and yes, of course, that's absolutely. It sounds like your mother when you started to talk about that,
right?
But give us a day. If you're getting good grades and you're the head cheerleader and you've got the part-time job, well, give us a day in the life back then.
Oh gosh, do you know how old I am? That was so long ago. I just remember getting up really early.
And just for the record, yes, I know that you're 25. Go on.
Thank you. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember getting up, driving to school, plugging away at school. I loved high school. When I hear people say I hated it, I loved every second of it. I would show up and have a good time and do all my classes. We'd have either practice or a game. If there was practice, it was immediately after school for cheerleading. If there was a game, it was later. So I would fit work in either between end of school and the game, or sometimes I would cheer at a game and then, get home or go to my job at Village Inn and waitress from 7 till 2 in the morning. And somehow I would squeeze in homework and then start my day all over again. It was
amazing.
It was crazy. I don't even remember, but and I had a boyfriend. I was so happy. I was doing all this crazy stuff, but I don't know where I did it.
Like your mother, maybe you didn't know how not to do it, right?
Right, yeah. This is like a therapy session. These are things I haven't thought of.
Well, let's keep going then. We've got the time. So as far as when you went to school, I know you came out with chemistry and business. So where did you go to school?
I started at CSU my first year, and then I didn't really care for it up there, and I couldn't find a job that would help me support myself. So I ended up at CU. And it took me 5 years because I paid for everything and I worked my way through. I was lucky enough to get a job at a pharmaceutical company in the laboratory, and so they helped pay some of my college tuition, which was wonderful. And I moved back in with my mom because I couldn't afford, to live in the dorms or anything like that. So I didn't have a traditional college experience.
Okay, but you did get a degree in which is do you have a chemistry and business? Which one's the degree in, and
in
how
both.
does that all work?
It is in both.
Interesting.
It's a BA in chemistry and a BS in business. Wait, is that right? Yeah, that's right. So it's kind of a weird thing, but
right.
I got part way through my chemistry degree and realized that I'd had so many business classes that I could turn it into a double major. So that's what I did.
Got it. Okay. So one might think that you have cannabis on your mind if you combine chemistry and business in college. Just go ahead and debunk that myth, right? Is that true,
yes.
or no?
That is not true.
Okay.
I never smoked marijuana.
So what were you thinking with both of them? What was the goal? It sounds like chemistry was the centrifugal force. What were you thinking? What did you want to do?
Well, I went to chemistry because that was always my easiest subject, and I loved chemistry, and classes, I just flew through them. It was just something that was intuitive to me. And toward, I don't know, maybe my junior year, I started looking at the pharmaceutical industry, and I realized that if you want a job where you can make a lot of money, you work in the pharmaceutical industry. So I just targeted that, had that in my sights. And ended up getting a job in the pharmaceutical industry as a sales rep, which was the best job ever, to be 23 or however old I was. You get a company car and you get all this money and you get all these fun things to do. And it was a great few years doing that. And I was completely prepared for what I was doing. I felt very comfortable with what I was doing.
Right. Okay, so you're running right along there. You had the two goals. One was to not be poor. You're making good headway on that by being a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Right.
And then when does the kind of overlap happen with the second goal of having kids?
That happened. Let's see. I had my son when I was 30, so I was working in pharmaceuticals, ended up I got married and then got pregnant within about 6 weeks. And because I had a goal, so I had to achieve that. And so I worked, at that point I took a promotion at the pharmaceutical company and was called a medical liaison. So I was working with the preeminent investigators in our, for instance, it was for neurology, cardiology, and internal medicine, and I was working with them to develop clinical studies for our new products, for the pipeline products. So the cool thing about that was I didn't have a normal sales territory anymore. I was working essentially from home, and so that freed me up to do both things at the same time. And then a couple years later, I was pregnant again with my daughter, and I was about ready to quit because I couldn't juggle two kids and a career. I didn't want to, And at that point, my company, which was Park Davis, was being bought out by Pfizer. And my department was being demolished, or my department was going away, so I was able to walk away with a really nice package. So that helped things. So like I said, a lot of determination, a lot of luck in that as well.
That's fine. Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, fine. So check, not poor. Check, have kids, son and daughter. Did you stop there, or because you have one of both, you have one of each, rather?
I stopped there. I do know my limitations.
Right.
2 was perfect. I had exactly what I wanted, and in fact, I was able to have my children in the exact birth order that I requested in my mind. So I think I'm a pretty determined person, and they're perfect in every way. It's crazy.
Indeed. And I think that we're going to talk about your son and daughter being perfect in every way after we establish the fact that you and I should go to Vegas together, immediately, based on the fact that you basically get whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. That's all. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So let's talk about you. I know that you were... You had humor when you said that your son and daughter are both perfect, but let's take the rabbit hole from Mother Michelle to Sally to son and daughter. What runs through the 3 generations?
I would say kindness, a love of family. It's interesting, and I have this theory that my children are going to end up being more like my mom. So I'm the type of mother that I always wanted, and no offense to my mom, but I always wanted someone who was there, who would be around. You always want what you don't have. So I always wanted someone to say, "Hi, welcome home. Here's a cookie," or whatever it is, And that's
here's a cookie.
Here's you know what I'm saying. Like, I just wanted someone to be present, but my mom was always working, so she wasn't present. She was rarely present. So I was the mom. Maybe my kids would probably say helicopter, but in a good way. But I was always with them, always there at every event, volunteering, everything I could do and still do to be a part of their lives is what I've done, to the point where it's probably smothering. Who knows? So my theory is that my children will be more like my mom and hands off and say, yeah, go do whatever you want. You don't have to call me if you don't want, that kind of thing. So we'll see if that rubber band or, rebounds. I'm not sure.
Got it. But you did say that they are both kind, and that's like your mother, and that's like Uncle Andy. Yeah. So, at a certain point, you kind of went home and raised the kids. Your division was dissolved, if you will, and then all of a sudden, Uncle Andy, Uncle Pete come knocking at the door.
Yeah.
And they want you to work with them. Is that how it happened?
Kind of. I am a person I just can't not work, right? So I always have to work. So even when my kids were little, I was running a medical education website, and I would do that before they woke up in the morning, when they were napping, and when they were sleeping. So I was able to run this online education resource for physicians. So that was great, and I did that for almost 8 years. And at the same time, my husband and I were amateur real estate flippers. So we were always working on a project, be it residential or commercial. So we were, doing things in that regard as well. So I didn't give up my drive to be successful just because I was a mom. I just did it, when they were sleeping for the most part. So
Fair enough.
So what I guess the point to that is, doing the real estate company and running the medical education business gave me a great background in finance as well, because I'm having to do the books, do the accounting and everything for those businesses. So I had a good understanding of what those basic functions were. So that when Andy and Pete called, said, "Hey, we need someone that we can trust. Just get us out of this little rut."
I want you to go into that, but you are literally the right person to run finance for Cannabis Dispensary, business. It's amazing. because you've got medical, you've got obviously chemistry, you've got the real estate, you have a business degree, you've been working with physicians. It's amazing how perfect your background is for what you do right now.
Yeah, it worked out
yes,
well.
okay, fine. Go
I'm
ahead.
sure there's a better, there's someone with more financial information. There's always people who are better at the things individually, but, as one package, it worked out okay. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you were getting into Andy and Pete kind of coming to the door, and they were in maybe a little bit of a rut, or did you want to go to a different place there?
Well, I was going to say before that, when they first started, I was helping Pete run his legal grow out of his basement. So I was always really just kind of worried about the whole marijuana thing with him, and I helped him ensure that he had the proper documentation. All of his patient records were accurate and well put together, so that if he did get a visit, that he would be able to turn over his binder. This is back in 2008 or so.
Right.
So then when they decided to put their heads together and scale it up for Medicine Man, they came to me for money. And at this point, I had to say no. I'm like, no, I can't give you my money. I'm still earning this. I'm trying to put my, I have this huge need for comfort and safety, and I need this nest egg, and I can't bet my farm on marijuana. This is 2009. Are you crazy, right?
Right.
I'll help you in any way that I can, but I can't give you money. Go talk to Mom.
Right. I will give you my mind. I will not give you my wallet. Do not pass go. Let's check in with Mom.
Right. Well, and in the beginning, I thought, oh, they're crazy. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? There's too many obstacles. There's too many things that can go wrong. But I knew better than with my two, chronically entrepreneurial brothers, to say that's not going to work, because they just don't hear that. And I'm glad they didn't listen to
right.
My risk averse talking on anything related to marijuana. So they were the smart ones.
So you got it, and you might have this conversation secondhand, but kind of take us through how they were able to secure investment from Michelle.
So they wrote a business plan. I need to find that. I don't know where it is or if it still exists. But the funny part was, so they took it to my mom, who never really even had a drink in her life. I think she had a fuzzy navel one time at a party or something like that. Certainly never used drugs or marijuana or anything. And they take it to her. And the funny part was, she had no idea that my brother Pete had been smoking marijuana, since he was younger. He would sneak off with his friends and smoke pot. She had no idea, which was funny. She had no idea he was growing it in his basement. But they went to her with a business plan, and she's a mom. She said, of course, this sounds great. And my mom's not a super savvy business person by any means. And so she just thought that whatever her sons did would be great. And of course, here, how much do you need? And she wrote them the first check. It was pretty
Excellent.
simple.
It was pretty, sounds it. So, that's 2009, and we know that as far as adult use, as far as recreational, you guys did open your doors January 1, 2014. Yes. Take us through 2009 to 2014. What was the journey there?
I'll try to do it as briefly as possible. The boys' original intent was to be growers. They just wanted to cultivate. They never that's what they knew how to do. So they rented a 20,000 square foot warehouse in the same location where we are today, and started building their pods, their growing pods. And then vertical integration hit, and suddenly they had to scramble to open a dispensary, because they were now required by the state to sell 70% of what they grew. So there's a lot of luck involved with our family, for as unlucky as our circumstances have been. The place that the cultivation facility had a retail space attached to the front of it. So we were able to turn that into our first dispensary. It was really small and medical only, but it turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to them. Being forced to open a store. So from that point, kind of moved along, slowly got more and more patients. We did a good job. We grew and grow amazing cannabis, so people kept coming back for what they perceived as good stuff. And then in about 2011, we started seeing the writing on the wall as far as landlords who were raising rents on tenants, marijuana tenants, exorbitantly. So we were paying 20, they would say it would be 60,000, whatever it was. So we saw this happening and decided to buy the building. So we bought the entire building where we now are. So that expanded our cultivation to about 40,000 square feet. And also doubled the size of our office area so that we were able to open a larger recreational dispensary in 2014. So fast forward to that, 2014, we opened we built a new rec side. So we have a rec side and a med side in the dispensary. And then we started the build out of the new side. We call it the new side and the old side of the cultivation. And the new side is, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's state of the art. It's the coolest cultivation facility you'll ever see. Looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. We took everything that we learned in the previous 4 or 5 years and put it into the new side. So all of the technology, all of the HVAC, all of the lights, everything that we know makes our marijuana great and allows us to grow it at a fairly low price per gram became real to us. So we are now fully operational with the 40,000 square feet, and it's just been an amazing ride. Oh wait, I forgot. In there, we also applied for a license and got one of the 21 licenses issued by the city of Aurora. So late last year, summer of last year, we started building out a new building in Aurora, and that store is amazing and has done better than we expected. So we're really pleased about that.
Excellent. And I want to kind of go through what you just did at a top level, just one level deeper, because you did talk about expansion in Aurora. You did talk about expansion at that place, and I know that national expansion is at least has been listed as a goal. So I want to get to that in a minute. But first, there's the medical side and then there's the rec side, and of course that's because of separate entrance, separate egress, right? And take folks through what I'm saying there just to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right. So in order to operate a both medical and recreational dispensary, they have to be delineated in some way. So you can't be a medical patient and go on the you can't be a recreational patient and go to the med side. So we have two separate areas. You walk in, are greeted by our friendly security guard, and they'll ask you if you're a medical or recreational patient. If you're a rec patient, you go one way. If you're a med patient, you check in another direction. So that's important for compliance purposes.
Right, exactly. Okay, and so when you were building out the adult use or rec side, what lessons did you take from the medical side?
Well, the customer service aspect is really what we tried to bring over to the rec side. So medical in our store means that you have a bud tender to yourself and you can open the jars and smell the jars and look at everything. It's really just not possible on the rec side because we're so busy. We moved to a different type of model, which is a pre-pack model, which is common for recreational stores. Still the same customer experience, still the same attention from a bud tender. However, we don't weigh at the counter. So really what we took from medical was how to treat our customers, how our customers, what questions to ask them, to truly give them, we call it the medicine man experience. We hope that everyone walks away with that, rec or med.
Okay, so the new side, the old side. So now we have to go to Aurora, and you secured one of the 21 licenses. Congratulations.
Yes.
And how is the Aurora, kind of take two different than even the new side at, in Denver?
Right. It's been interesting to watch what the demographics are for each store. So at the Denver store, we're close to the airport. We've been lucky to have a lot of national attention with Pot Barons and some of the other shows that we've done. So people know our name. So they land at the airport, and we're closest to the airport, so they drive over. So about 60% of our Medicine Man Denver recreational side are tourists. So they come in, and they have a lower amount that they can purchase, but they kind of want to try everything. They might take a little bit longer at the counter because they want to learn and understand everything that's going on in Colorado. Whereas in Aurora, we're seeing more of a regular base, regular clientele, people from the neighborhood, people on their way to or from work. So it's kind of interesting to see and to sort of map out our marketing that way too. So sales are different, prices can be different depending on what we do, and it's a unique challenge for us. You think you're just selling marijuana, you're going to have the same experience no matter where you are, but it's certainly not true. But it's a learning opportunity for us.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned that you guys every once in a while get lucky, and I think that that's probably because you had the good fortune not to be lucky at all early on.
Right.
And so
or I also say the harder I work, the luckier I get.
That's
I didn't
always
make
the
that
case.
up, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So, one thing that you mentioned was the fact that the facility was zoned for retail. The first facility was zoned for retail. The other, kind of piece of luck was that you're closest to the airport. And again, neither of those things were understood before you got going.
No, it was dumb luck.
Yeah.
It was, the building that we ended up in, our Denver facility, was one of the few that was zoned for forestry. I think that's what, we couldn't find anywhere that would let us rent. So we just got stuck in the middle of this industrial park, which we thought we would completely fail with a dispensary. But, if you have good product, they will come. So that's what we've had to hang our hat on.
Indeed. Field of dreams, without question.
That's right.
So Aurora, and then what's next? Let's kind of spend a little bit of time here. You've got Aurora up and running. What is the next kind of Medicine Man adventure?
Well, for the last year and a half to almost 2 years, this is happening, with all these other things I've just been talking about. This is going on as well. We've started Medicine Man Technologies with the help of Brett who's been instrumental in getting this off the ground. And what this is essentially our consulting company. So we knew a couple years ago that, it's an inevitability that marijuana will become an American hold on,
industry.
sorry. Yeah, it'll become an American industry. You're right. And so we wanted to be one of the first to help that happen, or to get into states and help people understand what we've learned in the last 5 years in Colorado. So Medicine Man Technologies was formed, and we have several clients now across the country. We were able to help 3 clients get licenses in Chicago, which was difficult, Nevada, New York, Florida we're working on, Andy's in Hawaii today, meeting with some folks there. Puerto Rico's coming up. So you can see, that's very time consuming to move that expansion. And again, Brett Roper has been doing most of the work on that. But the cool thing is that hopefully by the end of the summer, we're going to go public with Medicine Man Technologies. So we filed our S1, and we're waiting for our first round of questions from the SEC. And this is Brett's domain. And we're hoping that by the end of September, we'll be able to be publicly traded. And we'll be one of the first, or if not the first, marijuana company to go through the front door. There's a lot of marijuana companies back door, and we want to go right through the front door. And we'll see how that goes. So cross your fingers for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult to conduct the interview this way, but if you insist. But as far as industrialize a hippie process, I think that's Pete's quote. and is this what became of that? Because I feel like when he did say that, there was the thought of dispensaries. Is that not right? Do I have that wrong?
He said what? Industrialize a hippie profit?
Yeah, process.
Oh, process.
So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it just makes sense. If you industrialize any process, well, not any, but most processes, you get the benefits of economies of scale, or we track everything. There's something to be said for that. So, not saying that hippies didn't do that, but we just are doing it on a larger scale than most of them probably ever did. So, yeah, you have to have these processes in place to be successful.
Totally, and you've got that on the dispensary side, owning, running, and operating that.
Yeah.
You're introducing the technology side, potentially going public with that. What about growth in dispensary? Are we turning our eyes to becoming a technology company, or what about the grow? What about the retail side of things?
We've got a few things in the works, and big things, but I don't know how much I can talk about at this point. But
you can talk about it.
I can talk. Yeah, right. Let's just say there's a significant expansion expected by the end of 2016 for the Medicine Man brand in Colorado. How's that?
In Colorado.
Yeah, that is
answering my question.
Yeah, supported by a new state-of-the-art type of a process. So we're excited for that. And there's another huge project. I hate to be, I'm not sure what I can say and what I can't say, but we've got a lot of really exciting, groundbreaking projects in the works. The cool thing about being a pioneer is that people are seeking us out with these really great ideas and saying, hey, would you like to be a part of this? What we need is your expertise and your opinion, and you can do this with us. So there's just so many opportunities. It's just a matter of finding which ones are the right ones. So that's kind of what Andy's been out doing, and has been doing a great job of that.
Got it. And to make sure that we're on the same page, we're talking right now in May of 2015, and so hopefully we'll talk again when we can talk more about each of these things. How about that?
That sounds great. You'll get the scoop.
All right. Yet I'll still keep pressing. So 2016 in Colorado, and you've mentioned in this conversation there's a fair amount of travel. What about the Medicine Man brand, not the technology side of things, outside of Colorado? Is there anything to discuss there, or is that something to wait on?
That's something to wait on. We're hopeful. It's really tough, as you know, to get trademark protection and all the protections that are offered to, normal companies, or I don't know what you would call us, an abnormal company, but non-marijuana related companies. So that's a lot of legal stuff that we're working through. We would love for Medicine Man to be the new Starbucks, right? Or at least to capture that national branding, and we know that we have to be early if that's ever going to happen. So certainly we're working toward that. It's just as with most things, there's a lot of issues with the federal government that we just don't have any. We have no way of working around.
Oh, I hadn't heard.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Okay, well.
No, we just actually talked to Aaron Smith about banking issues, and 280E, which I'm sure is a favorite of yours.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But what is your on the ground dispensary take on each of those issues? Let's actually go there.
Okay, what do you want to hit first?
Let's do banking.
Banking, okay. Banking is tough. We've had, in the last 2 years, probably 6 different banks. We're very upfront. We tell them who we are, what we're doing. And interestingly, most people want to work with us. They're fascinated by the industry, and they think they can work around, the federal requirements. And then what inevitably happens is, some inspector comes through and looks at their accounts, points at ours, and says, get rid of them. So then we're shut down. So that's happened more than once. Our strategy is to always have about 3 accounts open at any one time so that we're not, completely dependent on one account and then we're stuck doing cash again. We have great banking relationships. We've been lucky enough to find a bank here in Colorado who is amazing. The president believes that the marijuana industry is treated as second-class citizens, and he is fighting for us. So that's amazing. Prior to meeting him, I was solicited by all kinds of people about the next great banking solution, which I never really paid attention to because until we have legitimate banking, I'm not willing to pay, 10% of my cash or even, to a bank for, the privilege of doing business with me. So we have operated on it.
The whole point. No, the whole point there being that we don't want to go back to being poor again.
Exactly. I got to hold on to what I can. The tax is going to go take it. 280 is going to take it. I got to hold on to a little bit. But, we are fully ready to operate again on a fully cash basis. We've done it intermittently over the last few years, and we've got our SOPs and processes down so that if all of our bank accounts are shut down, then we just roll that way. It's certainly an inconvenience. It requires a lot of man hours. It's a pain for my employees, but it's doable. We will do it.
Yeah, and so you did mention I'm not willing to pay 10% on the banking solution. What are you looking at aside from kind of diversifying accounts?
As far as charges from the bank, or what else are we looking at? No, just as far as
how to do business, whether it's through a credit union, whether it's through what are the solutions that you're using?
The solutions are build a relationship with a bank that knows who you are, be completely transparent and help them comply with the regulations. They can bank with us. It's just a lot of compliance that they have to do. They have to meet with the Fed, all this stuff. But if you help them, if you make it easy for them to be compliant, they're more likely to work with you. So, you can go to a bank and state your case and say, I will provide you with, these are the documents I know that you need. I will provide these documents to you quarterly. I will, let you do whatever you need to do, but please let me have a bank account and please charge me a customary or maybe reasonable high risk fee.
Got it. So you're willing to be high risk because you are high risk, but nothing atrocious.
Nothing atrocious. Yeah. Don't take advantage of me.
Which brings us to 280E.
Oh gosh, that's a harder one. Luckily Colorado's come around. I know there's some loosening of those restrictions within the state, but really the bulk of our tax burden is for the federal government. I've attended a couple seminars. I've talked to some of the preeminent 280E tax attorneys who have different, cases that are being heard at a federal level right now. I just don't see any answer to this until marijuana's off Schedule 1. I mean, that's the big answer for all of this, isn't it? And if we can, not be considered racketeers and have our drug classified the way it should be, then we'll all be happy. All of these problems go away.
And, President Obama, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks ago at this point, did mention something about taking marijuana off Schedule 1, taking cannabis off Schedule 1. What are your thoughts, as a business owner?
I don't think we're going to see it in the next 4 years or so. I mean, I would love, we had this hope maybe 6 months ago that maybe that would be his final thing he would do. The final stroke of the pen would be to take marijuana off Schedule 1, but that really was sort of a self-centered look at Obama universe. Like, I don't think that marijuana is, on the top 5 list of his, on the top 5 of his priority list.
Right.
We live and breathe it. This is all we care about. But really, there's so many other things that he's thinking about that I don't think that will be his final, his final victory for the marijuana industry.
Got it.
New elections bring a few more nerves. I do see marijuana as, and deservedly so, as a hot topic for the 2016 elections, and I'm really excited to see what happens there. We've got more Republicans coming on board. I think it's positive, but we got another 4 years of this, 4 or 5 years before I think we're out of the woods.
Okay, interesting. Now, you know Trip Keeper well from
Yeah,
Dixie
he's
Elixirs.
great.
He's holding tight to 2017. That's
Well, if that
federally,
happens, I will buy him like the most expensive cigar ever and say, you are right, I was wrong. And I'll be so happy to tell him that.
But you're more in the 4-year camp type of thing. You're more in the 2020 type of deal.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
would love to wish it sooner, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
What do you think are some keys to success, you finance person, over the next 5 years? Then, if it is that much of a long haul,
Yeah.
you mentioned diversifying your own kind of offering from being a producer and a retailer and now a technology company.
Mm-hmm.
What other things need to happen over the next 5 years if you've just got your medicine man hat on?
Yeah. Now, are you talking for Colorado or for the my answers are different for Colorado and for the United States.
Go first Colorado,
Okay.
then U.S.
Colorado, I would say, I think the green rush is over in Colorado. There's so many people in this marketplace. If you're not in, it's going to be really tough to get in. And I don't mean to say that to discourage anyone, but I think that there are so many cultivations coming online. There are so many products. You see this all the time, right? The number of ancillary products that are available it's insane. Not saying if you have a great product or a great idea that it couldn't make it, but the market is flooded. On the other hand, if you are entrepreneurial and are willing to move to a state where medical, is passed or they're about to pass medical, that's where the next rush is going to be. You'll have a lot more opportunities. But what I would say to those people would be to really be compliant from the beginning. Colorado has a great model. And if anyone's familiar with that, to sort of follow what we're doing in Colorado before you leap to the next state. I know the rules and regs will be different there, but take a look at compliance. Compliance is key. And I say this all the time, the key to our success is compliance. We follow all the rules. Even when they hurt, we follow the rules. We make sure everything we do is above board. That's the only way you're going to make it in Colorado or nationally. And that's about all I got for that.
Anyone from Nevada will tell you that it will be Las Vegas and not Denver that is the headquarters of cannabis 2 years from now. They'll even say tomorrow, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think anyone will ever be able to take what Colorado has done away from us. Colorado, Denver specifically, will always be the marijuana capital of the United States. There will be no evidence that you can support, that you will give to me that will make me believe otherwise. They can have glitzy, fancy, funky stores, which I have no doubt they will, and I'm excited. I'll go visit them. I think that's great. But you cannot take away what Denver and what Colorado has done for the marijuana industry.
That's totally fair, and I can hear it in your tone of voice. That is absolutely true, right? They'll tell you that to your face.
Oh, I'll tell that to anyone, and I mean, you won't be able to tell me that Washington did it better,
right,
that Nevada did it better. I'm not confrontational, but that's something I wouldn't let slide.
I love it. And what are your thoughts on the competition? In other words, good competition is always good for business. Nevada versus Colorado, do you see that coming? And I understand your point of view, but do you see that competition coming?
I don't. I think we offer two different things. Colorado, we have the beautiful weather, we have the mountains, we have culture, and don't get me wrong, I love Las Vegas. Las Vegas offers something else to me, to people who want to relax or to people who want to take a vacation. So if you were to tell me that perhaps, let's say, Salt Lake was getting into the marijuana industry, I might feel a little bit more threatened that would take away from our customer tourism or anything like that. But Nevada is a completely different experience. Right. I wish them all the best. I mean, we're going to be there too, but it'll be just another place. And the cool thing about that is there'll be more people who'll be able to witness how little of an impact marijuana makes on what's going on. Right. So there's not going to be a bunch of zombie stone people walking around the strip, well, any more than normal. But it won't be attributable to marijuana.
Right. It will not be a cannabis issue. I just want to point out, I am trying to start a fight between Nevada and Colorado without question. The informative thing was when you said Colorado has the mountains, we've got the weather, and then here was the dig to Nevada. We've got the culture. That was the dig.
Again.
We're just.
I love Las Vegas, but
exactly.
It's a different experience.
You got it, and I'm sure, and I'll say it so that you don't have to. I'm sure that we will see the Medicine Man brand somewhere in Nevada, somewhere down the line. So
That's
take
right.
that, right? I feel the need to say so. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So we've got just a few
puns in this industry.
Oh
Sorry.
my God, yeah. The first phone call, it's impossible not to, but whatever. We've got a few more minutes, and I want to make sure that we cover my final two questions. But before I do, you've done a great job of taking us through not only the brand, but the family. Is there anything I missed, do you think? Or did we cover it okay?
No, you've been very thorough. Your questions have been great. And I think I impressed upon you how hard my mother works, how hard I work, but even more than that, how hard Andy and Peter worked to get this job or to get this company off the ground. I mean, they really, just like the other pioneers in Colorado, they risked being thrown in jail. They risked having everything taken away from them, their families, their money, everything. And they're the ones, the true heroes of the marijuana industry, as with the other people who were there in the beginning. So I just want to make sure that you know that they worked, extra hard and share that same work ethic.
Yeah, no, without question. There are many stories, and we're looking to highlight them of, Aaron Smith himself from the NCIA said it was a little touch and go there for a minute. So absolutely. All right, so the final two questions.
Yeah, you have to talk to Pete at some point, too. He has great stories about how we almost lost our crop one day, and they had to, do all these. He's got a lot of great, Wild West stories, too.
Oh, good. Oh, we'll definitely do that. All right, so the final two questions here are the same words but taken differently. They are, what has most surprised you? So what has most surprised you in cannabis is the first question. What has most surprised you in life is the second question.
Oh, gosh. That's too hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess cannabis, it's interesting, and I've told the story before, but what's most surprising to me is that I was a child of the 80s, and I've said this before, but it's true. I was a child of the 80s. I was afraid of marijuana. I knew my little brother smoked it, and I hated it. I would give him lectures on it all the time. I would not go to a party if there was marijuana there because I was afraid of it. I bought into the dare, like Nancy Reagan stuff. I'm a child of that generation.
Right.
But the funny thing is, I was so afraid of that. Meanwhile, my girlfriends are in the back drinking beer bongs in my car, as we're driving probably too fast down the road. So, I was afraid of what I didn't know.
Right.
And I'll say that even past forward into my 30s when my brother Pete was still smoking and I was worried about his health and if he was able to function and have a job and all those things. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I started doing the research and I put my clinical hat on and I looked at the studies and I talked to the people who are using it, and I completely changed my mind on not only the fact that this is a true medicine, that it's, has significant health benefits, but beyond that it's an adult means of relaxation that is actually safer than alcohol. And I know people don't like us to compare marijuana to alcohol, but it's a pretty darn good comparison because we're all comfortable with alcohol. We all know what it does. We all know what it can do to us. We all know that it's deadly. And whereas marijuana, can be used to relax as well and won't kill us. So that's been the biggest thing for me, that I, grew up sort of turning my nose down at anyone who smoked marijuana, but that was because I wasn't informed. That was because I bought into the fear. And now it's really cool to try to educate people, sometimes one person at a time, on the effects, the therapeutic and, just general relaxation effects of marijuana. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned it as medicine as well. You've mentioned a couple of times that you're a child of the 80s. So before you answer my last question, I have two additional questions now. Madonna or Cyndi Lauper?
Oh God, Madonna.
Okay. In Excess or Duran Duran?
Oh, In Excess. Those were the two easiest questions you've asked me.
And anything to add on the 80s music front? What else was in the tape deck?
Oh my gosh, Cars. Well, you know what? I still listen to 80s music. It's still the best. I know I'll probably get hate mail for that, but best music ever, 80s music. It's on all my playlists. I drive my kids crazy with it. Anytime an 80s song comes on, I go crazy. So I told you I loved high school, right? So you love the music where you felt so great. And
totally. So you got the Cars. You got Rick Ocasek in the Cars. What else? Just rattle off a few more names. Yeah.
God, this is hard. Why can't I think of anything? I play it all the time. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, pretty much if it was produced in the 80s, I love it.
Got it. Fair enough. Say no more.
Okay.
All right. So, life lessons here. What has most surprised you over life? You've been through a lot. You took us through almost everything.
Well, that's hard. I've learned a lot in my life. But gosh, I'm approaching 50 and
oh, really? I know that we were making a little joke with 25, but I didn't know 50. That's wow, fantastic.
I'm 48. I'm 48, so
that's
I got
more
a couple
believable.
Years, but
right? Okay.
2 years makes such a difference. But oh gosh, I'm not so introspective, and I would say, it's been a cool ride. If you could fast forward through my life really quickly and see what I've seen and live what I lived, especially early on, you might not think, how can this person still have a positive, optimistic outlook? And I do, and it's great. That I'm not, I don't like this. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Well, no, you did.
I don't know what I've learned from life. The harder you work, the better it is.
Gosh darn it, Sally. You proved the first thing that we talked about. You basically, again, described Mama Michelle. You took us through exactly what brought her through the unlucky years. That's exactly what it is. It all makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I need to spend some time on a psychotherapy couch or something so I can find out what was the meaning of my life. So far, it's just been a lot of hard work, a lot of love, and a few good times mixed in between. So
there we go.
I would consider myself a very, very lucky person. I have a wonderful family. I have people who love me. I love a lot of people, and I was blessed with some intelligence and hard-working spirit, and I guess that's a good combination.
That is a perfect combination, and we're lucky to talk to you, at length here. Thanks for so much time, and we'll see you down the line.
Oh, thanks, Seth. That's been really fun.
Oh, come on. How sweet is she? Sally Vander, Veer, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking us on the journey with you and the rest of the Williams. Thanks for sharing what's going on now and what we should be expecting, even though you couldn't share all of it with us. But Sally Vander Veer, Medicine Man, thank you so much. Appreciate it.